So hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. I have my guest here, Mila. She was in a previous video, which you can view. It's going to be linked up here where we were talking about transcending the levels of consciousness and how that relates to manifestation and mindset work. And in today's video, we're going to be talking about mindfulness and really taking that introspective look at yourself, your values, how you're showing up, and going over different tools relating to mindfulness, how it plays out in the moment, self-analysis, and really getting into alignment with whatever it is that you want to experience in your life, and making sure that that alignment is coming from a space that is sound, a space that is benefiting you, benefiting the people around you, how that goes into forgiveness and giving, but giving from a space that is completely selfless and really glowing up in your life and understanding these concepts in a way that allow for you to fully step into that version of yourself and be conscious in every moment. So Mila is going to be taking it away here. She's going to lead this one. And if there's any questions that I have or any kind of perspectives that I have from my mindset perspective, then I will be speaking up too. But if you want to go ahead and take it away.
Sure. Thank you, Dylan. It's my pleasure always to collaborate with you and be on your channel. Thank you.
Yeah.
So self-analysis and alignment and mindfulness, how this all fits together. I would say, let's start with alignment, because if you are aligned to something that is not exactly your precise essence, then your analysis will be also skewed into that direction of perhaps ego, attachment, some conditioning and habits, maybe even limiting beliefs. So the first step I would see, and in my own process when I was studying many years ago, meditation and alignment are first. And meditation, there are many forms of meditation, of course. The form of meditation that I learned from my teacher and what I teach primarily is the form of meditation where you can stop thought completely. So we can only envision what is already on the map of our consciousness. And this consciousness of ours, this cognitive prefrontal cortex, it has its power, but it also has its limitations. So your best days are here, your worst days are here, your confusion is here, your wisdom is here, but it's still contained. It's still this identity, limited identity. Even maybe it's very expensive, maybe you're a very deep person, but it still relates to this specific identity, ego. And in order for us to align with who we truly are and to go beyond our limitations and our ego, we need to stop that process. We need to completely drop thought. As we talked about in our last collab, that sometimes people drink or they take drugs to drop that prefrontal cortex so that it gives them an access to their subconscious mind, so to speak, and to access the true deeper knowledge within ourselves. Well, in essence and truth, there is no barrier between conscious and subconscious mind. It's a gradual awareness. So initially, when we're just aware just on a physical level, we're aware just on a conscious physical level here. So our conscious mind is involved. But the driver is always our deeper mind, that's subconscious that we refer to, but we don't get access to it. When we start meditating in this form of meditation, you start to bring your awareness to the deeper part of your consciousness, to that subconscious level, where you learn to drop your prefrontal cortex, your thoughts, your ideas, your emotions, your judgments, perceptions, everything goes in the background. And you just sit with who you are. You are the observer. So, for example, if we look up in the sky and there are plenty of clouds go around, and we start making images from those clouds, you know, this one looks like a dog, this looks like a kitten, and that one looks like somebody I know. But we are not the clouds. We are the sky. So the thoughts, impressions, ideas, feelings, they come and go, even emotions, they come and go. We need to feel comfortable with being the sky, just being pure presence.
Mm.
And that is the wisdom of meditation, the way that I teach it. And we can have a separate video on just that because it takes a whole lot of instructions of its own. So we can have a video on that separately. But let's say you meditate, however you meditate right now. Breath work, for example, is also an effective way to get in touch with that deeper part of our consciousness. Well, how does it work? It works by us focusing on the process of breathing. Our prefrontal cortex, our conscious mind, gets fixated on it. It actually creates a focus. And because it's focused on our breathing mindfully and deliberately, we're not thinking about anything else. That's how it works. And what's interesting things happen is that our energy, our life force, like we discussed last time, either it's called chi energy in Zen Buddhism and Japanese, or ki in Chinese translation, or it's called kundalini in Sanskrit. It's internal energy that is our life force. And normally our thoughts, our busy thoughts, like this white noise, is what blocks our energy. So as long as there are a lot of thoughts in our mind, we can't really access that energy. We don't let it flow. When we are practicing meditation that stops thought, or the breath work with such precise and persistent focus that we're solely absorbed, that we stop thinking about all other things, again, our thoughts slow down and our energy can rise at that time. And it works very interesting. It's like yin and yang, it's like a fire. You know, the more energy rises, the quieter the mind becomes. And the quieter the mind becomes, the more energy rises. They work together.
Yeah.
They work together. So it's very interesting that people think that when I have a lot of energy, I'm going to be jumping around, I'm going to be like dancing and being anxious. That's actually not true. That can happen if you let the energy flow all over the place. But if you center yourself and tolerate that energy, tolerate it rising within you, and be okay with that, breathe through that. And the more you have that tolerance, the more you will be able to absorb and raise that energy higher and higher.
Yeah. And I noticed too, when I get in really deep states of meditation, it's not energetic in the sense of how you were explaining, like jumping around. It's more an intense focus. And so when you're able to silence your mind, and when you're able to enter that intense focus, this feeling of, it's like when I get into really deep meditations, it really feels like a pressure's on my forehead, and I have to kind of sway my forehead around like this because it feels like kind of just energy swirling. And so from that space, that's where I, in my own, my own manifesting journey and creation, is where I bring those kind of like deliberate thoughts into my mind of what it is that I'm creating. And it's kind of like consciously directing that energy. And I think this works in two ways. When you silence your mind and you can really impress that down into your subconscious, you're using that energy to draw it towards you, but also accessing your subconscious, like creating that as a part of your subconscious that you can tap into and start to assume.
Right, that's true, very true. So what I do when the energy gets really, really intense, I'm trying not to move because again, that dissipates the energy. Instead, I just focus on different chakras, energy centers. So let's say if I focus on the power center, which is just about an inch or two below your navel center, sometimes on the diagrams and pictures, they show chakras and they show power center at the solar plexus. That's actually incorrect. somebody just drew a picture and that went from there. If somebody is truly psychic and they could see, they know that the power center is located below the navel center. And if you ever taken martial arts, you know, when they say, focus on your navel, meditate on your navel, they actually focus on the power center. That's what grounds them. And that's the chakra of power. And then there is, of course, the heart chakra. There are hundreds of chakras throughout the body, but I'm talking, just touching on the key ones. The heart center is the chakra of balance, love and balance, like that. So if you get very intense, sometimes just focusing on the heart chakra really is helpful. Focusing on the third eye, it's like when you go like beyond thought. There is silence. There is not even a thought of no thought. That's it. You're gone. You're gone. And I'm not trying to direct it in any way from that point of view. I let the infinite direct me wherever I need to be. So there is this perfect trust. So we're trying to collect that energy. It's like the focus. If there is a sun outside and it's beautiful, the sun is green and everything is just pleasant and healthy. But if you take a magnifying glass and you put it to the ground, it's going to start a fire.
Yeah.
That's concentrated power of light goes into that one spot.
Yeah.
That's what we do with meditation. We do this kind of really, it's different meditation than just relaxation, let's say. It's completely different. You're learning to focus deliberately, precisely, continuously. There is this very, very persistent focus that you don't let go. You know, if you guys have animals, for example, dogs, especially like if they are hunters, like they bred for hunting. If you ever watch a Scottie, like I had a Scottish dogs, Scottish terriers, and they would see a squirrel, that was it. They were dead on focused on that squirrel. They forgot their name. I could pull them by their tail. No reaction, absolutely none. They're totally zoomed in. Nothing exists. That's how we meditate. And if we meditate with that kind of intensity, that focus will raise our Kundalini energy and our thoughts are going to part and we're going to see that clear sky behind the clouds.
Yeah. And so in relation to mindfulness, practicing the art of becoming thoughtless, right? Of stabilizing your energy and getting into these deep concentration. How do you, in your opinion, how does that play out in the moment, right? So we do meditation practices, we stabilize ourselves, but I think what a lot of people want to know is like through integrating this, right? How is that going to benefit me in those moments where I could get triggered, or those moments where, I'm recognizing a pattern and I don't want to continue to create it in my life anymore. And so I'll go from, if you want to explain, and then I'll go from my perspective too.
Of course, of course. So my understanding of mindfulness, or the way I use the word, is slightly different than what I've seen in contemporary teaching of meditation and mindfulness meditation. To me, mindfulness is what you just described, is moment to moment awareness outside of meditation. Yeah, we are mindful when we meditate, but when I'm talking about mindfulness, I'm talking about specifically watching our thoughts, reactions, and emotions on a moment by moment basis. So when we meditate this way and we slow down and eventually stop our thoughts completely, we create that bridge between the conscious mind and the subconscious. It becomes like a highway. We have an access. That's why we suddenly get intuition coming through to us. It doesn't come from analysis here. It comes from the deeper self, deeper knowledge, subconscious mind, higher mind, whatever we want to call it. So when we are throughout the day, if you just in a moment you're doing something, remember that feeling during meditation when you were fully connected, and it will come to you, and you will find that you will be much more intuitive. You will be much more insightful about what people are talking about, what situation might be, what should you decide this way or the other. You will eventually have access to your intuition on a much deeper level and a much more precise level, because you're aligned with your truth. You're not aligned with just your desires and your ego. You're aligned with the real truth, with the light within you, that essence within you. And
Yeah.
so, yeah, go ahead.
So I just wanted to add to this too. What I think it also does is when you are able to silence your mind, so let's say you have those limiting beliefs or just repressed emotions, things that are going on, you're always observing your reality through that, right? Which is what you kind of started off with this video
Yes,
talking about. And so through this conscious practice of silencing your mind, you're saying, you come closer to the truth of you, but you also come closer to the truth of the reality as well. So instead of
absolutely.
observing reality through your limited beliefs or your limited perspectives, you can look at it very objectively. And the key thing here too is through this objective look, this looking at it, you're not in a reactive space. It's more
Mhm.
a more of an observation and understanding.
Right,
You've practiced the art of really stabilizing your mind that you can see things much more clearly. And
right.
I mean, a wonderful power even in itself, because if you're incorrectly observing reality and
Yeah,
projecting your thoughts and your worries and your doubts onto reality, then you're going to always experience that, right?
exactly. Yeah. And what happens is that with practice, like I can tell you something and I don't expect you to believe it. I don't expect anybody to believe anything I say. And I would suggest don't believe anybody, anything. Test it.
Yeah.
Test it yourself. As what I was trained to do as a Buddhist monk was to not trust anybody as far as books, dogmas, systems. None of that matters. What matters is your direct personal experience. And from what I have observed from my experience when I started meditating like this, I realized spontaneously, because I was connected, that when I'm looking at another human being, it's like I'm looking in a mirror of myself. It's like if God is infinite, if God has infinite power and can achieve and be and do anything, then why not create multitude of beings and experience life through all those eyes, through all those bodies, through all those personalities? To me, we are, each one of us is an eye of God.
Yeah.
And there are billions, of course, of not just people, but also our animals, our plants. Everything is alive. Everything has energy. Everything has intelligent energy, consciousness.
Yeah.
So when you meditate in a deep way like that, you become aware that whoever you're looking at is reflection of just another side of God. You just like, who am I talking to? Am I talking to myself? In a way, I am.
Yeah.
And that's the question I had. That's actually took me out of my deep meditation once. I was in the desert with my teacher and some other students, and we were hiking for like about 9 hours by then. We like 11 miles into the gorge in the desert, power place, meditating, watching the stars, listening to him, all kind of, it's like you completely felt dissolved. I didn't feel even like I had a body or boundaries. And as we were walking out of the gorge, I just remember my consciousness completely flipped out of my body to the point where I was everything and everyone at the same time,
Yeah.
everything. And I was just looking at my walking body over there. And it was funny to me that I thought it was me my whole life. It was just hysterical. It was like, what a joke.
Get out of it.
What,
Yeah.
what a joke. And then I started to kind of think at the time, because I was completely not in no thought. I was just pure experience. I was like, oh my God, everything. I feel I am everything. I'm aware as everything. And all of a sudden, my thought came like, so when I'm talking to you, am I talking to myself? And it kind of got me thinking again. And as soon as I started thinking, I got back into my body. I was walking again and looking around like
Yeah.
me, the limited being.
So how I view it is definitely, so from a scientific standpoint, okay, and like energy wise, like we're all just energy
Yeah,
expressing itself. We're all energy coming from the same source,
mhm,
expressing itself in different ways. So that,
exactly.
in my understanding of like, yeah, we're all one. We all have our own individual expression,
Huh?
and it's unique to this body and what we're going through, right? But I
Yeah,
think that understanding for me, how I've really taken that in is allowing myself to have a deeper level of compassion for other people, because I can recognize that how they're showing up and how they're treating me is not personal. And I can
right.
also
Yeah,
recognize the pain that they
yeah,
must be in to show up this way. And so through
right.
that recognition of self, through recognizing pain, through recognizing like, wow, if I chose to show up like how they're showing up right now, I would be in a lot of pain. I know that there would be a lot of things like in order for me
Right.
to get to that space, not saying that it has to be painful, but even happy people, right? Whatever. It doesn't have to
Yeah,
be like sad, but from a
right.
compassionate standpoint, it's allowed me to really see through the human experience and the human labeling and the judgment, and recognize myself and others and find love for even just anything, honestly.
Absolutely. No, you're absolutely right. It's like if you want to understand someone or something, you need to become it.
Yeah.
You kind of merge with that. And you can't really merge if there is a lot of personality and thoughts and ideas. Because if we have a lot of ideas and thoughts and judgments, then we have very thick lens through which we perceive the other person. Our ego is just too much.
Yeah, and so that's where the art
Yeah,
of silencing your mind,
exactly.
what we're talking
When
about,
we,
is you see
yes,
clearly. Instead of
yes,
seeing people your through your perspective, you see through that very clear of like, it's almost when I see somebody, I feel like I feel being them. I
yes,
feel like where they are, and I can almost like put myself in their thoughts and
yes,
understand where they are and why they are the way they are. It's a very interesting experience, because then I
yeah,
can look at behaviors and how people are showing up, and instead of observing it as like happening to me, I can go more into why
yeah.
that would be occurring.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
There's
that's
clarity.
that's that's exactly how I feel too. So when somebody, let's say in my class, if somebody asks a question, I just drop completely everything. I just drop and I receive them,
Yeah.
and I feel it, and I feel questions that they don't even ask. Maybe on the surface they asked something, but I could feel there's something else
You
there
can pick up
that's,
on the other things through, even that's what I do when I'm in my coaching, is I just
yeah,
completely not everything, and I can pick up on like the intonations and the voice, and like understand like, oh, okay, so you talked about it this way, there has to be
right,
something deeper there, right?
right,
So it's that
exactly.
heightened awareness and heightened clarity. So before we wrap up this video too, I know we're not done yet, but you do have another meeting as well. So I do want to go back to how this applies.
Uh-huh.
So mindfulness in the moment to moment basis,
Yeah,
and how this applies to you kind of shifting out of undesirable patterns in your life.
yeah.
Because obviously a lot of people online want, relationships or a better career
Mhm.
or better friend
Yeah,
group. And so meditation and mindfulness are two tools. It's not going to be instant. It's not going to be like
yeah,
that, but it's through understanding these concepts that come back to that moment to moment basis.
yeah,
In my understanding, how it works is, and you've talked about this before, you get in between the emotional responses that you're having, the thoughts that you're having, and you can
hmm,
choose a new thought, a new state of being. And you have
right.
that's how instant change can occur. Because if I
Yeah,
decide to have a new thought, if I decide to have a new state of being, instead of perpetuating what I'm
yeah,
going through and not able to silence my mind, it's almost when you aren't able to silence your mind, you're acting, you're doing, you don't know
sure,
why, it's just occurring, right? When you can
right.
silence your mind, then you can choose through that deliberate awareness in every moment a new
Yeah,
thought. A new
yeah,
thought means a new interpretation. A new interpretation means a new reaction. A new reaction means I'm going to get a different reaction from somebody else, which opens up the
yeah,
possibility of what I want to experience.
Yes, exactly. So let's say something happens throughout the day. Like I said, throughout the day, check in with yourself, connect with that part of you that you touched in the morning when you meditated, right?
Yeah.
But let's say something comes up to you, a situation at work or with somebody, like a person you might have a relationship with. Before you react, before you will think where is in between, get back to your center first.
Yeah.
Get connected first, like at least a momentary, like this sense of meditation, connecting with that wholeness within yourself. You need the distance because sometimes our reactions are instantaneously, it's hard. So we need to consciously pull back from reacting, take a breath, and just connect with that center within ourselves. You need to create a distance before you can actually see something. If something is so close, you can't see it. So you need to take a distance. So you bring yourself to your center. And once you're centered and you're kind of more objective, from there, you can look and see. And just like you said, you have a choice. You always have a choice. Am I going to go with that anxiety, fear, and reaction? Or I choose another path. I choose another way of handling situation. Maybe I choose to see that maybe a person is going through something and maybe they have their own conditioning and pain that cause them
That's
to
where the
say or
clarity
do
comes in,
things.
because then you can see reality for what it is instead of observing it through
Yeah.
your fears, your doubts, your limiting
Yeah.
beliefs.
So that is what you do throughout the day. In the morning, you meditate. The first thing, like I get up, take shower, I meditate, don't even start my phone until I'm done meditating. And then I am engaged in my day, in my work, whatever I'm doing. And I'm practicing this mindfulness all day long.
Yeah.
But what I also like to do is to create lists. And the lists are, like I put a couple of down so I don't forget. First is your idea of yourself will shift as you evolve. As you meditate, your idea of self will shift. And so the first thing to maybe ask yourself, who am I? Not what I am, not what am I, but who am I? And you go back, and it's like sometimes it's hard to put into words, but try to just put it in the best way you can of who you are today. Don't think of like this is who I am forever. Your ideas will change as you grow and evolve. The second is from that point of view, after you know who you are, after you know your essence, from that point of view, not from your conditioning, from that depth of your heart, what are your values?
I love it. I love
So,
it.
so it's not the values that were conditioned into us by parents, by society, by beliefs, any of that. It's at the essence, what are the values? What is the most important to me, to my essence? I was born here alone, I will die alone. I existed before this life, I will exist after. So that infinite being, what is that infinite being's values
Okay. I love
outside of this life, right? Then what are my fears? And that's where perhaps our essence and values overlap with conditioning we received, because normally we would have no fears whatsoever. If we were truly centered in our beings, we would just be free all the
Yeah.
time. But
Yeah.
because we are not, that's because of our conditioning. So write down, what are my fears? And based on what you wrote down, write affirmations that are the opposite of that. How would I turn it around? For example, somebody might say, I'm afraid of public speaking. I know it might be really beneficial for my business, for my career, for creating friendships, whatever it is, but I'm afraid of public speaking. So look into it deeper and say, what is it that scares you about it? And then say, rewrite it in the way that you're not afraid of it. For example, I feel so comfortable expressing myself in front of people. I know that my message is much more important than me as a ego. So I'm not worried as much about how I look on camera or how I look on stage, what people may think, because there are some people in the audience that will be able to relate to my message. And just like for me, receiving a message from my teacher was absolutely a lifesaver, literally.
Yeah.
I know how these messages might be a lifesaver for some other people in the audience. And one time I did have cold feet when I was supposed to go and speak in front of 2,000 people, but I had my speaking mentor in backstage with me, and I told him I kind of getting cold feet, was some years ago, and he just got really serious, and he's like, your message is more important than you are. Go and do it.
Yeah.
And it kind of like immediately took all the fears, because I immediately refocused from myself to other people, to my audience, who really I need to give this message to.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's one. Another thing on the list is, what are my limiting beliefs? You can go through, you can write a list, and then you can rewrite it in the opposite of what you would like to believe. Maybe not what you believe right now, but you would like to believe that. And you state them in the positive. For example, I'm completely free. My voice communicates my energy. My words flow effortlessly because I focus on my purpose, because I focus on my message. Whatever limiting beliefs there might be, if somebody feels like you're not good enough, like I'm not good enough. I was raised with that kind of concept. I'm not good enough. I'm not pretty enough. I'm never going to be as good as other children. Whatever it was, I rewrite it as I am good enough. I am lovable. And if I am true to myself, other people will be able to see me. How can anybody like me if I show my mask instead of myself?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to be as authentic as I
That's the core of
can.
everything too, is, when you connect with yourself, when you can establish these beliefs, first off, when you get past your conditioning and you can establish these beliefs, and then you're able to silence your mind and be more observant of your reality, your true self shines through. And
Yeah.
when we think about maintaining relationships, or honestly, okay, let's just go from the scope of relationships. I'm not just talking romantic, friendships, political, um, business, all those friendships. The only
Yeah.
way that you're going to be
Yeah.
able to do that is to consistently stay aligned to who you truly are. Because if
Yeah.
you're showing up with a different mask for every individual in your reality, one aspect of your personality may tell somebody something, one aspect of your personality may tell somebody something. And this is where the messages get conflicted, right?
Yeah.
And that's where a lot of drama can erupt, or you're degrading relationships because you're not maintaining a level of consistency within yourself. You're always showing up through your conditioning and trying to be and meet the needs of others. And so
Right.
people
Yeah.
can't
And it's
really connect.
probably from fear. It's
Exactly.
probably from fear that I will not be accepted the way I am. But you will
Exactly.
never discover and find your tribe, your true tribe, if you're trying to please the tribe that isn't quite right.
But the beautiful thing that I think also happens is when you are authentically yourself, when you can do this work, people can recognize real. Okay. So
Yeah.
people can, like, we can recognize when somebody is being fake.
Yeah.
We can recognize when somebody has a mask on. You're not as clever as you think you are, as
Yeah.
you believe yourself to be. So most people, in my experience, when you show up as this real, genuine, raw version of yourself, they're able to recognize it and form that connection with you, regardless of. So your tribe, I think, it's almost a limited thinking to think that there's a one specific tribe for me. I can actually connect with everybody by connecting with myself. Would I want to
Mhm.
connect with some of those people? Maybe not. But
Right.
at the end of the day, like, it really is about understanding, if you have that really deep, solid belief within yourself and you get very clear in your mind,
Yeah.
you can establish a relationship or a friendship with anybody.
Absolutely.
That's where you become limitless.
Absolutely, 100%. I 100% agree with you. In fact, we did experiments. I ran workshops where I taught people this authentic connection, and it's through breath work with the partner, with the eye gazing, and through special dyad questions, dyad practice, DYAD. It's an ancient yogic practice of building connection within yourself, but also with your partner and building intimacy. Pretty much people who've never known and never seen each other before come to a workshop. And I told them to pair up with people who in their mind they would never talk to, somebody absolutely unlike them and unlike people they would normally connect with. And I said, I promise you, but by the end of this hour, you will end up like best buddies. And that's exactly what happened by the end of every single workshop.
Yeah,
So,
because authenticity transcends the
yeah,
borders and the disconnect between one another. Because when we recognize authenticity, it inspires us to be authentic as well.
right, yeah, exactly. And then if somebody wants to manifest something very specific, let's say they have a goal, look at that goal again from that kind of perspective and see, where is it coming from? Where is that desire coming from? Is it coming from my ego, wounded ego? Maybe I didn't receive certain attention when I was young, and now I'm trying to get it from everybody else. And because I didn't get it from the people at the time, I'm attracting people who will also reject me, just like I was rejected when I was little.
People have a hard time accepting that too.
Yeah,
So not a lot of people want to accept that because they think it's a limited way of thinking. But in my own, like, meaning like, oh, you should be able to change the people around you, right? Like, no matter who I attract in, right? And so we do have a certain degree of influence on the people around us. We do. And we can foster really and build really amazing, beautiful relationships. But if somebody is fundamentally rejecting you and is not good for you, and
yeah,
you attracted them in from a wound, then you're really doing yourself a disservice by continuing forward with that. You're just staying in your wound. You're staying in your wound. And
yeah,
so the next best question
absolutely.
would be, am I more comfortable in my wounds than I am in actually experiencing what I want to experience? And that, I think that's a
Absolutely.
valid question. I think that's a valid, good question that somebody should ask themselves.
Well, that's like a very deep question, actually, because the way I see it from my experience, I can inspire people,
Yeah.
but people need to be in the right place to be inspired.
Yeah.
It's not my place to tell people that's the difference between black magic, kind of like sorcery, black sorcery, where you coerce somebody into something that they don't want for themselves. But I think they should. That's
Yeah.
black magic. And that is that kind of abuse of power that we discussed in the previous podcast and in the beginning of this one. That's where the karma is going to be horrible. When you're
Yeah.
trying to when you're trying to force the will of another person, the karma is terrible because you're misusing your power. What
Yeah.
you can do, you can inspire them. And I have seen it over and over. When you raise your own vibration, your own energy, your own frequency, whatever you want to refer to it, your own attention, when you raise your energy there, it will inspire other people. But if you're with somebody who isn't ready, you're going to continue carrying them. So it's basically you're trying to run a marathon with a ton of weight on your ankles. It's not going to work very well.
Yeah. It's not.
So,
And that has to be a hard truth that people have to accept. And typically people only accept that after they've ran a lot of that marathon and they're mentally and emotionally drained and they have no
yeah,
option but to accept the truth of the situation.
exactly. They're like at
So
the
here's the
bottom.
thing. Do you want to emotionally and mentally drain yourself, or do you want to cut your losses and really bring the focus back to self?
Yeah, but
That's the
you
choice that
see,
people have to make.
yeah, absolutely. And I see that the what is perpetuating this kind of attitude and this kind of approach are a lot of the New Age gurus that are trying to sell people what people want to hear. And they create, even like, if I know energy follows the thought. So whatever I'm focused on, I'm going to put all my energy in. And if I'm constantly focusing on someone specifically, and I want to change them, the one who is getting obsessed is not them, it's me.
And that's the karma that people aren't recognizing. It's
And
instant. Karma is instant.
Exactly. The
So
more
the
you're
more you
trying,
obsess over somebody, the more you're
yeah,
experiencing that. So
exactly. That's pretty
instant.
much it.
Yeah,
Instant. Yeah. The more you're trying to attach yourself to someone, you are the one who got bounded.
exactly. And
That's it.
you're living out your own karma.
You're done.
Yeah.
So yeah, start
Well,
with
why don't we end
meditation.
but um but I think today we talked about some really amazing concepts in regard to, self-reflectiveness, self-awareness, inner guidance, the importance of meditation, breath work, and how that plays out in those moment-to-moment basis. So it's to get really clear, and through that clarity and through that awareness within yourself, you can actually connect with yourself. And then in those day-to-day moments, you get to see reality for what it is objectively and choose who you're going to be and what you're going to experience. And that's really the power of silencing your mind and practicing meditation, right?
Exactly. Yeah. You become aware of yourself. You become very intuitive. You become more intuitive of other people, understand them more, and you understand your path more if you're willing to let go of your attachments.
Yeah, you become more confident. Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Awesome. Well, it's always a pleasure to have you on my channel. I know that you have
Thank
some
you.
other obligations to get to, and I do as well. So if you want to get in touch with Mila, or if you're interested in coaching with her, or anything that she's talking about, she has her own website. The link for that is in the description. So go ahead and check that out. And then if you want to book coaching with me, the link for my coaching is in the description as well. And we hope you all have a beautiful day. So.
Yes. Thank you.